you've lived probably the most diverse life of anybody I know, and I know a few characters. Your brother amongst them, but I mean, you've got your music, you've got your art and your comic art and things like that. Um, you boxed as a kid, didn't you, as well? You've mentioned that, you've alluded to that a few times, but you had a bit of an ABA career. Is that right?
Yeah. We were in the streets of Walton and Rice Lane, where me and the bro grew up. You had to fight, really. You had to be able to look after yourself. So yeah, we were like secret ninjas, you know. My mum was called Peggy. The House of Peggy held many secrets. Not many of them got out. But well, the other thing is, Ray kept leaving his wigs and his dresses and high heels around, so the transvestite thing got out. But as for everything else, have I just ruined his stunt career?
You might have, mate. You might have, but we're going to leave that in definite. That's staying in. No worries, mate. That's gold. But yeah, so I know you had a bit of a boxing career, but I mean, I've always drawn parallels between boxing and martial arts and music. I mean, for a start, they're both sort of solo pursuits, you know, but you obviously you're working with other people. If you're in the ring, you've got an opponent, you've often got a crowd, although it's a different type of interaction. I mean, when you're there in a ring, and I've done this many a time, it's very much an internal thing. There's a crowd there might be a few thousand people there, but they're there. It's neither here nor there because you're there to do you. When you're up on stage and you're performing as a musician or, say, a stand-up comedian or whatever, any kind of live performance, that's a very, very different scenario with an audience because you are there. Your sole purpose of being there is to make a connection with that audience and draw a response from them, ideally. So there's those kind of parallels. But I mean, also like in terms of just like the creativity, because I mean, to me, boxing is a massively, you know, and the martial arts is a massively creative field. And I draw those comparisons. I mean, what were your feelings on
Um, I found my attitude and my philosophy to it was different from my mates, probably even different from Ray. Like Ray was a proper aggressive boxer who, you know, if you're in the ring with him, how dare you? So he'd want a piece of you, you know what I mean? He'd want to finish you off. Whereas everything I do, I think outside the box. I'm a bit nonconformist about everything. That's why I look at some of these conspiracy theories. I'm thinking, what a load of bollocks. But he's got a point. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking, so I will select what apples I want off what trees and make my own harvest. You know what I mean? And it was the same when you think about it. We're just bundles of energy, bundles of chi. And these hands can be really, really destructive or really, really creative. You know, so I'm a sculptor, I'm a cartoonist, I'm an artist, I'm a painter, I'm a muralist. So I can do lots of creating. And I know in my time I've done lots of damage. Do you know what I mean? So I found the whole thing with boxing. It was a good remedy to stop anyone bullying you because it was a really good, hands-on, hardcore way to learn self-defense and take a dig. It wasn't so much going to a dojo, did a bit of jiu-jitsu, did all that. But getting in the ring every night when you go to the gym, getting punched in the face by John Conti or other world champions and Robbie Davis.
John Conti?
Yeah. So we boxed for Kirby, and that was just a beehive, a wasp's nest of proper fighters, guys that could punch, and every punch would hurt. You know, there's none of this jab, get one good one in. Every fucking punch was a good punch. You know, every spar was a hard spar, and every spar was an education. So it does you good to be in there with the cream of a lot of guys, a lot of ABA champions. So when we first joined the club, we're in there sparring with guys, you know, who were gold medalists, European gold medalists, Olympic gold medalists, ABA champions, world champion, all this kind of stuff. We were getting this education. It was profound. It was great. Camaraderie was good. It was a proper gold time boxing, you know.
George,
trainers.
George, sorry, mate. Your audio just went.
Yeah.
Go back. Oh, hold on, you're glitching, mate. Hello?
Hello?
Speak again, George.
You there?
It's going out of sync.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. So sorry, George.
Back.
Can you just go back to that last sentence and just sort of cut in from there? About every spa was an education and
back to what?
Sort of every spa was an education, then go from there. It all glitched up, mate. All of a sudden, you cut out.
Right, yeah. The benefit that we got from being in that particular boxing club at the time, it was just peppered with, all-star champions, really pedigree fighters. So every spa was an education. You had to be really fast or be a really good technician, blocking and jabbing. And so if you were a statue, you'd get hurt. There was no point in being a bruiser, just taking 2 or 3 of your punches to get one of mine in, because you just wouldn't get one of yours in. Do you know what I mean? You just wouldn't. So the stealth of these fighters was amazing. But I found myself not wanting to jab, right, whatever. I found the whole thing as a game, as an art form, as a massive use of imagination. Because I know when it came to fighting, sparring's one thing, because you can't offload what you're capable of.
No.
On your friends. But when we were fighting, I would take on another role. In my head, I would get in there. I'd feel really calm, not really nervous, because I knew I had a really good punch. I had a hand to put you away. So that was my insurance policy. And Ray, if you connect, you've got...
Ray's the ABA champion, wasn't he? Ray went up to be an ABA champion.
So we knew if we connected, you would go to sleep. And all I had to do was be fast enough to get away from what you had to offer. But aside from that, I used to not be wholly in the moment. I would be moving around, looking through a high guard at you, and I wouldn't offer a punch. I wouldn't give anything away. I would be sitting still, like a spider in a web, waiting for something from you to come my way, and then I'd deal with it. And when it came to speed, I had a mechanism. It was almost like stretching an elastic band. Bing! Stretch it and let it go. Part of the training, we used to put some bits of fish or meat in my mum's kitchen in summertime, and it would be off. And there'd be flies and blue bottles everywhere. And have you tried to jab a blue bottle?
No.
Have a go. It's fun. You get flies, and once you agitate them, and you go, bing! And he goes, and you think, well, you little bastard. Right, we would have 1,000,001 flies and blue bottles all over my mum's kitchen. She'd go mad, and we'd leave this food out. And that would be the best way to train, in terms of, throwing a jab in, where you could hear the wind off your jab. I'm thinking, when we get to that stage, if I'm jabbing at such a speed, you're going to have to be bloody quick to be able to slip this kind of stuff. So I thought the best thing to do is speed. When we used to do pads or we used to do stuff, speed was everything really. When we got training properly and were on form, it would be a blare. You'd hear the wind. There is a few videos on Facebook at the moment.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of good ones, mate. Yeah.
Now that we weren't training then, that was like an exercise in mucking around before we had mum's Sunday dinner, where we just go and punch the pads for the shits and giggles of it all. But when we were training for the fight, we'd have a more profoundly weaponized approach, where the punches were faster, the punches were harder. We were on form in terms of style, in terms of keeping your guard up. The videos that you might have seen that were up just recently were probably just a way to offload some energy. But I know when we did train for it, we do pads and stuff, and then we'd finish off where we have to hit each other's hand, where you move the hands. Frustrating. So the same exercise is trying to swat blue bottles out the air when they're on full pelt, or catch them, even go over, blue bottles flying. It's not to hit it, it's to go over it, beyond it, catch it, and open your hands as proof and let it go.
George, what I need to know is, can you do it with a pair of chopsticks though, like Mr. Miyagi?
Yeah, that's where they got the idea from.
Thought so.
Look at the credits on the film. It says, adopted from an idea from Peggy's Kitchen. Not.
Hey, I tell you what, I've every time I speak to you or your bro, I find new stuff out and what have you. But I mean, I never knew you sparred with John Conte. That's mega. That's a hell of a story in itself. So you went on, you had a pretty decent career yourself, and Ray went on to be an ABA champion. But you know, like I said, then you sort of got into the music and all the rest. You went over to the States. You were boxing in the States. And then the other thing that we've not touched on yet, we've covered a lot. We've covered your charity work, your artwork, and your memorials. Oh, we've only touched on the artwork. You also did. I don't want to go into this too much because I really want to talk to you about the Werebears, which we'll come to in a moment. But you did a character, Scouse Mouse, that was pretty big. Was that in some of the papers over there? And you know.
Yeah, it was here. I just thought it'd be quite a nice, quaint idea for Liverpool to have its own Mickey Mouse character. You know the way Disney characters and Care Bear characters and these, obviously they're tailored for a certain demographic or kind of cute and cuddly and sweet, and they don't swear and they don't steal and they don't do things that we all have a go at. And I thought it'd be really good to have a streetwise, edgy, scallywag Mickey Mouse for Liverpool. So I came up with Scouse Mouse and his gang of reprobates. There was Spud the Sparrow. That was modelled on a mate of mine. I don't want to mention his name in case he ever sees this, but he was so boring. He would render you in mute bewilderment. He'd be like, he just talk shit. Anyway, Spud the Sparrow was modelled on, yes, you, Keith. Then we had Sconhead, Big Billy, another guy, big, huge, fat thing. So this was, Sconhead was depicted as a big bulldog. We had Kathleen, which was a cat, which was Scouse Mouse's girlfriend. I thought it was ironic to have a mouse going out with a cat. And then we had the Owl Girl, which was modelled on my mum, you know, with the little scarf tied around the head with the little Peter Sharplesy thing going on. So that was the Owl Girl. And he went on. I just took the mickey out of all my friends. And there was Chaz the Chicken, which was modelled on Ray, my brother, because he's as baldy as we are, but when he was younger, he used to have a fringe that looked like this.
I've seen Ray with hair. I've seen Ray with hair. Yeah.
Like, he'd have all this little thing going on. And if you've seen the old pictures, Ray had a bit of a hooter on him. I know he's my brother, but do you remember the Guinness adverts?
No,
do you remember the Guinness adverts?
No, probably not your brother after tonight, mate, but carry
on.
What? He's probably not your bro after tonight, mate. We'll edit it if you want, but I personally want to leave it in because it amuses me. But no, mate. But that was pretty big.
Ray could have easily got the. Do you remember the Guinness advert with the toucan?
Yeah.
Ray could have stormed that. You know what I mean?
Ray, me, mate. This is all in. You carry.
It could have been a good earner for our kids. That means. Anyway, that was then, and then he had it broken, and then he had it broken, and then I think I do remember he got it straightened, and I think he got a job over in Spain doing some fight scenes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't healed, so he took all the plaster stuff off, and I think he got an elbow or a belt in the nose or somebody with a golf club, and it ended up over there somewhere or over there.
I've been there myself, George. I've been there myself, and I tell you.
Yeah.
If I ever have that operation to re-straighten the nose again, it will be too soon. That was like, 10, 12 years ago. But, and then, yeah, I've had mine done many times since. I give it, you know what I mean? I'll just stick with these ruggedly handsome good looks, Anyways, please do go on with the story.
I've even forgotten.
Scouse Mouse, and you were in some of the papers, weren't you? Was it featured in one of the papers? Is it the Echo? What was it in?
The Scouse Mouse character was in the Echo as a cartoon strip. I used to get a $5 strip off them every night. it wasn't worth the aggro of trying to think of a joke every night. It was like a sentence. Like, I used to phone my mates up and go, "Give me a joke." Comedians, they were all blue and all the wrong joke. I'm going, "Oh God," because I've got to get a strip ready tonight for tomorrow night. So we kept that going for years. And then the good thing about it was I let them use the artwork once, the fiver, and I get the artwork back. And then I'd syndicate it to other newspapers around the country. So that's how I made the money on it. And then it grew. It got a lot of readership, got a lot of following. We did our own comic. As I say, I modelled the ancillary characters of Scouse Mouse on friends of mine. And a lot of people quite liked that kind of...
friends, George, former friends now, probably after this, but go on.
You've nailed it, mate. Yeah. Billy no mates because of that bloody character. I don't have any friends now. But the actual character concept, I put one comic out called Ace. I went to Smith's Menzies, went down begging. It took me years trying to get the artwork together for comics and knocking on doors. And somebody gave me the chance to do a summer special called Ace, and it was Scouse Mouse. And I had the nice mice. I had Budgie Malone, Al Capone, Stuntman, which was modelled on our Ray. Everything's modelled on Ray. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of characters in this comic I was offering as a summer special. We got the deal, did the comic, put it out as a one-off on the shelves, sale or return. It flew out because it just looked different from everything else. And everybody kind of indulged in the humour and the silliness of it all. And I invited people to write to me with ideas, got to know them. We put their ideas, we put their artwork in the comic, and it grew and grew. And in the end, we ended up doing a monthly. We changed the name then to Scouse Mouse and Scallywags. We made the Bulldog guy from Birmingham, the Birmingham Bulldog, Chaz the Chicken, Geordie Chicken, Spud the Sparrow, the Cockney Sparrow. So we made them from different areas.
Yeah.
And Scouse Mouse was the leader to justify the fact that it was no longer a parochial thing. We had to make this a national thing. And that worked. So we got fan mail from all over the country and Ireland. And it went from being a monthly comic, it went from being a quarterly comic to a monthly and then a fortnightly. So the pressure was on. I'm thinking, oh, and this is me and a bunch of mates. Joey was one of them, the guy that was with me on the murals all these years. Yeah. He used to come in and colour out with Dr. Pens. So we had this little team of 4 or 5 of us in a shed in Kirby, colouring in, doing the artwork, doing the scripts, everything, selling the artwork on. Well, originally we just printed it and found a distributor. The sales were unbelievable. So the sales, the money coming back in the royalties perpetuated other comics. So we did Budgie Malone, Al Capone, set in Chicago, and they were gangster birds like Budgie Malone and Al Capone, Elliot Ness Day, the Feathered Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, just a big piss take on words. Students particularly loved that one. So they had their own comic. And then we started going down the lines into doing the Werebears, which were much more international.
That's that in a minute. At some point in time, didn't you end up working with, forgive me, I cannot remember his name, but the guy that penned Dennis the Menace and the Beano? Didn't you collaborate with him?
Yeah. No, he's still my mate. He was one of my artists on all them comics we did.
What's his name?
Nigel Parkinson.
Right, yeah.
So he's quite famous now. He's been doing that.
Was that on the Scouse Mouse comics? Was that on something else? What was?
No, that was me and Nigel on Scouse Mouse. He was, well, to be honest, I used to break away. We used to do our comics, but we would do customized annuals, artwork, comics and things for other people. And we did some fundraising publications for Great Ormond Street Hospital. It was called Gosh. And it was all the characters that we put in there. And that was to be sold and raise money for Great Ormond Street. We put that together. That was just me and Nigel.
Wow.
So me and Nigel covered a lot of ground. And we had this kind of synergy and this connection where we think the same and the humour and plots and everything. It was really interesting the way it worked, as you can't imagine. But I'd start a sentence, he'd finish it, that kind of thing. So we did have that kind of synergy going. But like I say, he's still bang at it. He's still working for the DC Thompson, Dandy Beano people doing Den the Menace.
I loved the Dandy and the Beano growing up. I used to read those all the time and what have you. And yeah, that's just another cool aside that you ended up working with him, mate. That's great. So the other thing that you're responsible for, and I remember these from way back when, but the werebears. So, mate, I know you got a mega story around these. So please do tell us about the werebears, bud.
Right, the werebears were born through this little story. I had a concept called Scare Bears, and we had a Frankenstein bear with a big square head and bolts to his neck. So they were all based on teddy bears, which we were going to merchandise. So Frankie Bear was Count Ted, who was a vampire. Tootin Bear, which was a mummy. Quasi Bear, which was a hunchback, but we got told off and we couldn't use him anymore because Scoliosis Society thought we were taking the mickey out of the kids with that problem, as if, I know. So I thought, ooh, whatever. Bone Bear, which was just a skeleton of a bear with fairy ears, ridiculous things. And Werebear, because it rhymed. So there was the Adventures of Scare Bears. This really caught the imagination. We got a readership really quickly. They were very popular.
That's George. It started as a comic.
As a cartoon concept, right. That was featuring in. We put them in certain comics,
yeah.
And it wasn't long before the Americans got onto me. The people who did Care Bears, I think it was those characters in Cleveland, and they read, "You can't use Scare Bears." I went, "Why? I invented them." "We know you did, but we're going to sue you." I said, "For my own characters." They went, "You can't use them." And I said, "Tell me your logic." "I know there's a thing called confusion in the marketplace." I said, "Well, your Care Bears are cute, pastel shaded. Mine are very strong primary colours. Mine are fucking ugly. Yours are little pretty twee teddy bears. There's no comparison. What is your problem?" And they said, Scare Bears, if you look at it, really is Care Bears with an S in front.
Oh, okay. And that shit stands, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I said, "So what are you going to do about it?" They said, "Well, you can't use Scare Bears anymore." I said, "Well, you're talking to someone who painted the world's longest mural, who was originally told he couldn't paint one mural in there." I said, "So, no. Red rag to a bull, I'm afraid." I think his name was Howard Weinschenker. Threatened me with all kinds of litigation, taking me for every penny, or trying to license my idea to me. And I'm thinking, just greedy, opportunist, corporate bullshit goes on all the time when you're dealing with the Americans, I found, I'm sorry to say. Particularly when I got as far as Hollywood and Universal Studios. Bullshit.
But it did go that far, didn't it? So tell us how they jumped on that Werebears idea. So the Werebears, they got some sort of a release around Europe, right? In toy form, is that correct?
Well, what happened was I had to put to bed this whole threat business from the Care Bear people, whereby, because I was a freelance artist, obviously you're on the dole, and then you're employed, and then you're not. Being a freelancer, you spent probably more time unemployed than you did working. So they were going to take me for every penny. So I sent them a copy of my dole card and said, "Good luck." But to avoid any further, because no one's going to do business with me, knowing on the horizon there's a massive American multi-million-dollar corporation exploiting Care Bears who have got me in the crosshairs, wanting to shoot my brains out. So I thought, okay, put Scare Bears to bed, and I took out of the concept Werebears, and did my own comic. Werebears went down great. A couple of months down the line, greedy bastards phoned up again Can't have werebears. Why? It's one of ours. I said, you didn't say that last time. It was scare bears, care with an S in front, scare. I said, all that rubbish. What's going on now? Why is werebears not allowed? And why is it all of a sudden yours? And they said, we have a bear called werebear. I said, no, you haven't. I've got all the trademarks. You're telling stories. No, we have one. I said, is it spelled W-E-R-E, bears? No. I said, how do you spell your werebears? W-H-E-R-E. I said, so like, where are you? Where have I left my car keys? What are you talking about? I said, tell me about the synopsis. Tell me about what your stupid werebears do and what are they about? Well, they haven't got a very good memory. And they often wonder where they are.
It's me. It's me. I will get back on them. I will sue them because that is like they've quite clearly just taken the inspiration from the good self there, and I never gave them permission for that. That's how.
Well, there you go. So you have these original American Alzheimer bears, and I thought, what a stupid. I said, listen,
nice. That's good, that, mate. The kids will love that.
Dementia Teds. There's not a chance. I believe everything you say. Don't phone me again. Do what you want to do. You're fucked up in the head. Where bears? Where am I? Bears. I'm not having it. You're just opportunist. So put the phone down. I've got more and more threats. I ignored all of it. Put the comic out. It sold like you wouldn't believe. Selling like 80 to 100,000 right away. So Where Bears comic went out and I thought, this is good. It travelled. I went around all the kids in all the hay. What should we call this one? You know, there was Howley, Grizzly, Gums and Fang. Got all the names. And the reason I said Gums was some of the kids in Alder Hay, the little girls were like, oh, can't we have one with no teeth and no claws? And I thought, kind of goes against the odds. But thinking outside the box, we'll disarm one of them. We'll have him completely gummy, no claws, but he has the worst temper. Got to give him some kind of.
Yeah. Okay, I love that.
So he's your flaky psycho bear. So we went along with Gums. So Gums became popular, even though he had no teeth and claws. Did the comic, did great. Then I started contacting toy companies with these prototype ideas I had about these interchangeable. So 1 minute they're placid and cute, and then they flip inside out and turn from cute to nasty.
That sounds like every girl I've ever been out with, just off the top of my head, mate. But go on.
I got the idea. I'm sorry to go on about Ray so much, but I got the idea from Ray.
What, the flip?
Yeah. The flip. Yeah. I got the idea.
Ray, do not put this on me, bro. I'm just the.
Yeah. So there we go. We're brothers. Anyway, I kind of caught the imagination of Hornby Toys. They used to make train sets.
Yeah.
They just moved into plush toy, cuddly toys. I think their success was a thing called Pound Puppy. They were doing little pound puppies, selling them in little cardboard kennels. So that's all they had. So I caught them at the right time because they wanted something new to open up, to go to New York Toy Fair and London Toy Fair and stuff with. So I caught them just right. They said, come down and see us, really interested. Went down. I won't bore you with the negotiations, but they tried to get them for nothing on the promise of a royalty if they worked. I said, no. Then it went from $3,500, license, carte blanche, full spectrum, full pizza, everything, $3,000, world rights and the universe. Nah. Yeah. So I thought, okay. Used to make little jokes coming down from Liverpool. Haven't you got gas lights up there? Do you still have fish and chips? And I thought, okay, I'm obviously someone who's thick, not getting onto any of it. So I thought, just made a mission out of coming out of this on top. I'm not having this. I was insulted. That's their opinion of those scousers going down there, which I was about to prove them wrong. So I think I met them in Stringfellows. And they were saying, you need to sign a contract. And I went, no, because it sucks. I've actually got someone else set up. I went away and found out who their opponents were. And it was like Matchbox Toys and Kenner Parker. There was other toy companies out there that showed me interest in the werebears and making a werebear toy. So I thought, I just didn't want to really deal with American companies. And their contracts are like a work of art, and all the chicanery and all the rubbish that goes into them. I'm thinking, can't be done with it. Let's stick with good old English cricket playing Hornby toys. Got that wrong. So met them in Stringfellows, and they saying, here's the money, whatever. I said, no. What it is, the werebears, there's 4 of them, but they have 4 enemies called the Terror-Teds. That was the name at the time. So you can't have cowboys without Indians. You know, you need the good guys and you need the bad guys. And I'm looking to sell the werebears and the scarebears in its entirety as a concept. No, we don't want the Terror-Teds. I said, well, you can't have the werebears then. So they go, well, you know, you're going to cost yourself the deal. We don't. I said, I'm not bothered. I've already got interest from 2 of your opponents, and I mentioned the names of the companies, that they will take werebears and Terror-Teds as the deal. So tonight is the night you make your mind up, but you're not having werebears. You're not having them for £3,500. You're just not. You know, you've been taking the piss for weeks. So tonight's the night. It's the final night. This is my portfolio. The price for werebears is 15 grand advance. They were like, whoa. I said, no, I've done my research. I know the value of them. I've looked into the value of things in the marketplace. That's not bad. I said, so 6% royalty. I'm not trying to hit you for anything heavy. 6% royalty, 15 grand for the werebears. And they argued about it, obviously. And I shut my folder and I went, I'm ordering the cab and I'm going back to Liverpool. Don't phone me anymore. That's it. That's the deal. If you want them. So I got them to shake hands on that. I got them to agree to that. But I said the other part of the scenario, which you're not going to like, is it's also 15 grand for the Terror-Teds, which they didn't like that. And they didn't really want that. But the good thing about that day was, on the cards, in terms of the deal, for me, was 3.5 grand for the whole concept. All of it, the synopsis, everything. But I remember coming back on the train with 30k advance against loyalty. So I did okay for the thick scouser who's got gas lights in his house eating chips. So yeah, quite fulfilled all that one. But then moving on from that, we had the comic out, then the toy came out, and that became like an international bestseller. Got on the Toy Industry magazine covers. It was a buzzword. It was great. Then there was peripheral merchandise and lots of things going on. And that kind of got me over to Hollywood. Got me over to, I kind of tweaked my way in. I found out who was it, Spielberg and Lucas and someone else, who were making young Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And they were on location, and I wheezed my way in to a lady that used to live in Wales, Moira, at Universal Studios, just by being a pesky pest. And I used to make her laugh with my cheek. And I found out that was going on, and it was George Lucas or Spielberg's kids, I can't remember. It was somebody's birthdays, and I sent the werebears to Hollywood for them to send to the location as werebears in the boxes for their kids, knowing it would get their attention, because the merchandise werebear looked the proper job. You know, they looked really good.
I've seen a couple, because I've been to your gaff a couple of times for socials and things, and you had a couple. I've seen them. They look good. They look good, mate.
Good quality. The new ones, the hybrid ones, when you turn the head inside out, the eyes light up green and they howl if you touch the paw. So there's a newer version which I'm contemplating on relaunching now, because they're old enough to be new. But it's funny when you speak to people in the animation industry like I do, or publishing industry, because they're all the bosses and executives now, they're all about your age, had werebears when they were younger. So it's not a hard sell. You go, I still got my werebears. And it was really weird when I phoned up one of your main guys from an Australian animation company.
Yeah.
I think they're the people that did. Do you know the animation film called Happy Feet?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, brilliant film. Yeah.
Like them. Got in touch with them. Just remember his name's Bruce something. That's not just because he's an Australian, but his name is Bruce. And I got through to him, and he was silent on the phone. And he went, I said, "You there?" And he said, "I'm gobsmacked. I've just moved from Sydney to Adelaide or Adelaide to wherever." He said, "And I'm just moving all the stuff into the new house. And I'd opened all the tea chests and the boxes." He said, "And this is last night." He said, "And I brought out all my old toys when I was young to give to my kids now." He said, "And I was actually holding your werebears in my hand last night."
What?
He said, "And here you are on the phone now." And I thought, "Oh, that's weird, isn't it?"
Insane coincidence, mate. That's a wicked story in itself, man.
It is weird.
I don't want to go too much off point, but didn't you have a meeting with, was it Vincent Price, who used to play Van Helsing in the old Hammer Horrors, and he was in Star Wars, had the role as the captain. Didn't he have something to do with the Werebears, or want something?
It wasn't Vincent Price. It was, what was his name? Peter Cushing.
Sorry, Peter Cushing.
The guy, the guy that played Van Helsing. You know, so there was Vincent Price. There was Christopher Lee. He was one of your all-time Hollywood Hammer horror greats.
Yeah, Hammer horror great, and also had a pretty legendary role as the evil commander in Star Wars, Lord Vader's boss at the time. So but wow,
he was great. Contacting him, because when you buy a werebear in the original box, you get a story tape. So we wrote stories about each bear. The original story.
George, you've glitched.
About what?
George, hello, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Sorry, mate. Can you just go again from the stories in the werebear tapes and Cushing? Just go from the stories in the werebear tapes. Yeah. All right, bro.
It was interesting at the time when we were selling the werebears. We decided to put in each box with a werebear a story tape cassette. So it has on one side the original story of how the werebears came into being, and on the other side, each individual werebear would have their own adventure story. So we were looking for someone to do the narration that would tell the story.
Yeah.
We ended up with the guy that did Bagpuss. Remember Bagpuss?
Mate, wow. And that massive part of my childhood again, Bagpuss. That's awesome.
Like, his name was Oliver Postgate. Really good old cuddly guy. So became mates with Oliver Postgate. We used him to do the narration on the stories for the werebear tapes. At the same time, we were going to do all the storyboarding for television, and I wanted other people as well. And I'm thinking somebody from the genre of horror, Hammer horror, might be ideal. So we ended up getting into a friendship with Peter Cushing, and one of your Hammer horror greats. Used to play Van Helsing and played the role in Star Wars and whatever. So, and he was a great guy to know. So went to his house, went down with the costumes and the toys. He absolutely loved the idea that there was a humorous version of horror. Instead of it being serious like Christopher Lee with the blood and the fangs and all the ghouls and the zombies, death and whatever, this was a bit of a piss take, in as much as they were fun. These were ferocious little characters that would turn into werebears, werewolf bears, but they also would transmute back to being quite defenseless, cute and innocent little teddies.
Quite similar to my daughter, that, by the way. Like, yeah, so I can totally relate to that, but go for it.
Well, I just wanted the idea for werebears actually came from the fact that my lad Mark is quite a big guy now. He looks like a big cage fighter. He's big muscle bound thing. He's a big lad. But when he was younger, he was quite a small guy playing out in the street. He's quite sweet. It would be, it wasn't cool for a lad in Liverpool to be going out with a teddy bear. But I thought, you know, what's wrong with that really? When you're a little tiny kid, you know what I mean? It was, teddy bear, you need a machine gun. Or not. So I thought that was quite sweet. And I thought, really, to propagate that idea, I thought the werebears would be the epitome of plush toys for little boys. And that was a marketing plan for me to take it to toy companies, and it worked. That we had something out there at last that was quite cool for you to be seen with your teddy, because it had attitude, because not only was it your confidant and your protector or friend, it was also your bodyguard and protector, you know, because it had that dualistic side where at any given moment, whatever mood you wanted, he could be your sleeping companion, or he could turn into your bodyguard, you know, and everybody else's nightmare. So that was the basic idea behind it, and that's settled in everybody's sight. You love the idea, plush toy for little boys. Are you ready for these teddies? And all these little silly catchphrases caught the imagination of publishing houses and toy companies. So that's how that slotted in. Because obviously when you have ideas, you've got to have a strapline, you've got to have some kind of marketing ploy. You know, why should we buy it? Why should we license it? And that was enough, just those few words and those little catchphrases.
And they're still quite collectible now. The original ones, like they are very, very collectible, aren't they, mate? They're the sort of thing that you see. Because I'm a massive geek, mate. I basically, you know, I describe myself as the alpha geek. It's like, you know, yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of science fiction, but I'll still fuck your shit up. So, you know, come at me. But see, I love me. I love like my Comic Cons and conventions like that, science fiction conventions, and I go to them whenever I can. So I've seen werebears cropping up there before, like the toy fairs and things like that. So they're pretty collectible still. But you also, like you said, you're thinking about doing a relaunch for the future as well.
Yeah,
like you said, it could be perfect time.
Well, I'm kind of inspired to. I still get quite a lot of emails, messages, texts, people track you down, people you bump into on Facebook going, oh, are you the werebear guy? Or New Zealand, it wasn't that long ago, somebody from New Zealand contacted me and asked me, could they buy from me a set of werebears for their fiance or their husband, who that was their favorite toy when they were kids. And I'm thinking, I don't have them to sell anymore. You know, well, people are searching high and low. People are selling them in boxes for extraordinary prices. So they have become quite a hot property as a collector's item around. Still got an awful lot of fans out there, you know, once you had a werebear. And people start sending, if I put a post on Facebook now and said, hi guys, start sending you, put your pictures up with you and your werebears. Doesn't matter what condition. I mean, some of them look like you've got leprosy now. Do you know what I mean?
That could be your new that could be your new gimmick for your new bear, leprosy bear, you know, or
Nah.
No, I won't take us well, no.
but they do look like victims of rapists or something. Some of them are in bad condition. But I could. What?
You've had a hard paper round, clearly.
Yeah. But it's refreshing to know that people offer up. In fact, Carla, who does our admin, she showed me a photograph the other month. Somebody in South America has had a massive werebear on their thigh, grizzly, the yellow one. There's a huge werebear tattoo on the thigh, some on the chest, some on their arms and the shoulders. So I'm thinking, yeah, there's still a lot of play in this, because those people that had werebears are now mums and dads. Do you know what I mean? And it wouldn't take that much in the way of propagation and advertising to let people know that they've made a comeback. I mean, the Care Bears have come back and come back and come back, and they seem to come back every 2 years, you know.
I really sincerely wish they wouldn't, mate. I'll tell you this now, mate. I would more than happily let my two play with the Werebears over the fucking Care Bears any day. So please, you know, I think you might have to have a duty here, George, to bring those out and
Yeah, I think so.
you know a bit, mate. Mate, it's been amazing. So just so you know, cartoon artist, recording artist, massive following in the States and Europe. You've been a firefighter and a paramedic in the south of America, in the good old-fashioned guns garden government bit of Georgia. You survived.
Rebel territory.
Yeah, man. Jesus. I mean, wow, George. Wow, I am actually at a loss for words, buddy. That's a hell of a full life, mate, and it's definitely hits the marker of extreme, I would say, or extremes. So, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Don't hang up straight away. What I'll do is I'll stop the recording in a second. We'll just have a quick chat before we go. But I just wanted to say thanks, man. It's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, John. Hope I haven't bored anybody.
Not even a little bit, bro. Not even a little. Cheers, George.
Cheers,
Take care, mate.
Thank you.
Bye.